The ultimatum and the unexpected response. The massive hologram materialized above every major city on Earth simultaneously, its crystalline features twisted into what passed for contempt among the Viraxian species. High Admiral Cathax of the Galactic Hegemony loomed over humanity's population centers, his translucent form casting an eerie blue glow across upturned faces of millions. "Humans of Earth," the translation began, his words echoing through emergency broadcast systems worldwide. "Your planet has been deemed sufficiently advanced to be worthy of our attention, yet insufficiently civilized to maintain independence. You have 30 Earth days to submit to hegemony rule or face immediate termination. There will be no negotiation." In Seattle, a content creator named Maya Chen watched the broadcast from her studio apartment, absently scratching her cat's ears while live streaming her reaction to her modest following of 10,000 subscribers. Her channel, Maya's Meme Machine, usually focused on pop culture commentary and video game reviews. "Okay, but is anyone else getting major? I want to speak to the manager of Earth vibes from this guy," she quipped, zooming in on the High Admiral's elaborate ceremonial headpiece. "Like that's definitely a Karen haircut for his species, right?" Her chat exploded with laughter and agreement. Within minutes, someone had already photoshopped the High Admiral's image onto the famous Karen meme template. Maya shared it immediately, adding her own caption. "The Galactic Hegemony would like to speak to Earth's supervisor about our unsatisfactory submission to their rule." The meme spread like wildfire. In Lagos, Nigeria, amateur filmmaker Oluwaseun Sun Adelik saw Maya's post and immediately recognized the potential. His YouTube channel, known for clever political satire, had been struggling to find the right tone to address the alien threat. This was it. "They think they can just walk in here with their fancy ships and corporate middle management energy," he muttered, already setting up his camera equipment. "Oh, this is going to be good." Within hours, Sun had produced a short sketch reimagining the hegemony as an overzealous homeowners association trying to enforce their rules on the solar system. His video ended with a deadpan delivery of "Sir, this is a Wendy's to an increasingly frustrated alien representative." The video hit 1 million views in under an hour. Dr. Sarah Martinez, a xenolinguistics professor at MIT, noticed something fascinating in the spreading phenomenon. The memes were being automatically translated by the hegemony's universal translators, meaning the aliens were seeing everything. Her research team began tracking the hegemony's communications, noting increasing confusion in their internal messages. "They literally don't understand why we're laughing," she remarked during an emergency academic conference. "Their species evolved from hive-minded arthropods. The concept of individual defiance through humor is completely alien to them. They're experiencing what I'm calling cognitive disruption through mimetic warfare." The hegemony's response came swiftly. They deployed their most intimidating warships, positioning them in low Earth orbit where their massive shadows would fall over major cities. High Admiral Cathax issued another announcement, his voice trembling with barely contained rage. "Your juvenile attempts at mockery will not be tolerated. We have archived every instance of disrespect. Those responsible will face enhanced reconditioning once your surrender is complete." Within minutes, #enhanced reconditioning was trending worldwide. Celebrities started posting their reconditioning workout routines. Late-night show hosts incorporated it into their monologues. A DJ in Berlin remixed the High Admiral's speech into a dance track that topped charts globally. The movement gained unexpected support when Dr. James Chen, Maya's father and a renowned psychiatrist, published a paper demonstrating how shared humor was actually helping humanity cope with the existential threat. By transforming our fear into laughter, we're not just engaging in denial, we're actively building resilience and community. 26 days before the deadline, the first cracks in the hegemony's confidence became visible. Their threatening broadcasts became less frequent. Their warships began shifting positions more often, as if unsure of how to maintain an intimidating presence when their every move became instant meme material. Maya's follower count had grown to 15 million. Sun's channel had become the most subscribed in Africa. Dr. Martinez had assembled a global team of linguists and comedians to ensure their humor was being accurately translated into the hegemony's language. They expected us to cower, Maya noted in a viral post. Instead, we're treating them like the galaxy's most overdramatic TikTok account. What are they going to do? Conquer a planet that's already turned them into a joke? The post reached the High Admiral's personal feed. For the first time in recorded history, a Varaxian was observed experiencing something their translators identified as embarrassment. The resistance through humor had begun, and Earth's first line of defense wasn't soldiers or scientists. It was social media influencers armed with nothing but wit and Wi-Fi. 25 days remained until the deadline, and humanity had already changed the rules of engagement. The question wasn't whether Earth would submit to the hegemony. The question was whether the hegemony could survive becoming the galaxy's biggest meme. Digital warfare. The hegemony's warships hung in low orbit like titanium thunderclouds, their massive forms designed to inspire dread. Instead, they had become Earth's most elaborate backdrop for TikTok dance challenges. The hegemony hover trend, started by a group of K-pop dancers, had teenagers worldwide filming themselves performing increasingly elaborate routines beneath the alien vessels. Maya Chen's latest livestream hit record viewership as she collaborated with a CGI artist to create intergalactic kitchen nightmares. The parody showed Gordon Ramsay berating High Admiral Thax about his bloody ridiculous invasion techniques. You can't even properly intimidate a level 3 civilization, you donkey. But it was Suan Adalik who made the breakthrough. Working with Dr. Martinez's linguistics team, he discovered that Varaxian communication relied heavily on pheromone signals alongside verbal components. Their universal translators were struggling to convey human sarcasm because they had no biological framework for it. We're not just sending them words, Sun explained during an emergency UN briefing, his usual humor temporarily set aside. We're sending them cognitive paradoxes. Every meme is like a tiny logic bomb in their hive mind psychology. Dr. Martinez's team confirmed this theory. They had been monitoring hegemony communications and noticed increasing instances of what they termed processing loops, Varaxian commanders attempting to understand human humor and getting stuck in circular logic patterns. It's like we've accidentally discovered their operating system's blue screen of death, Dr. Martinez explained. Their hierarchical thought structure can't process the idea of authority being undermined through laughter. The revelation sparked a new wave of targeted mimetic warfare. Maya coordinated with content creators worldwide to develop what they called logic landmines, seemingly simple jokes that exploited the gaps in Varaxian psychology. The results exceeded their wildest expectations. A hegemony scout ship over Tokyo experienced a total systems shutdown after its crew encountered a particularly paradoxical anime meme. In Rio de Janeiro, an alien ground reconnaissance team retreated in confusion when met not with resistance, but with a carnival parade mocking their appearance. Dr. James Chen, monitoring the psychological impact on both species, noticed something unprecedented. The Varaxians are experiencing individual emotional responses for the first time in their evolutionary history. We're not just amusing ourselves, we're accidentally forcing them to develop a sense of humor as a survival mechanism. The hegemony's attempts to retaliate proved disastrous. They tried releasing intimidating propaganda, but their lack of understanding of human psychology led to material so absurd they instantly became viral sensations. Their threat to dissolve Earth's planetary core became a trending dance move. Their warning about consequences beyond mortal comprehension turned into a popular energy drink slogan. 20 days before the deadline, the first major crack in the hegemony's unity appeared. A junior commander, exposed to 3 weeks of constant human memes, did the unthinkable. He laughed. The sound was so alien and unexpected that it caused a chain reaction of confusion through their hive mind network. Maya's father recognized the significance immediately. They're developing independent emotional responses. Their hive mind structure is beginning to fragment under the pressure of individual experiences of humor. Xian saw the opportunity and took it. He launched a new series called Hegemony's Got Talent, inviting aliens to submit their attempts at human humor. The response was slow at first, then astronomical. Rogue transmissions from hegemony ships began appearing. Aliens trying their hand at jokes, many terrible, but each one a tiny crack in their species' hive mind conditioning. The hegemony high command, desperate to maintain control, ordered a communications blackout. But they discovered an uncomfortable truth. You can't stop a meme by pretending it doesn't exist. Their crews had already been infected by something far more dangerous than humor: curiosity. Dr. Martinez's team intercepted internal hegemony messages showing increasing signs of individuality in their communication patterns. Words like "I think" and "I feel" began appearing in their transmissions, concepts previously alien to their hive mind structure. We're not just defending Earth anymore, Maya realized during a strategic meeting with the UN's hastily formed Mimetic Defense Committee. We're accidentally triggering the biggest cultural revolution in Varaxian history. With 20 days remaining, humanity had moved beyond simple resistance. They were rewriting the psychological architecture of an entire species through the power of shared laughter. The question was no longer whether Earth would survive, but whether the hegemony could survive its first encounter with human humor. In orbit, a junior Varaxian officer secretly watched Earth's broadcasts, trying to understand why humans called something a dad joke, and why, despite their apparent inefficiency, these jokes continued to be told. The fate of two civilizations might just hinge on whether they could learn to get the punchline. The Empire strikes back. Poorly. The hegemony's counteroffensive began with what they believed to be a masterstroke of psychological warfare. They created their own social media accounts. The results were, as Maya Chen put it, like watching your grandparents discover TikTok if your grandparents were a hive mind civilization of space insects. Their first attempt at a meme featured High Admiral Thax pointing at Earth with all four of his arms, accompanied by text that read, "Surrender now," or "EXPERIENC mandatory fuien reducticion protocols." Within hours, mandatory fun reduction became the hottest new gaming string category, with Maya leading a 24-hour illegal fun marathon that broke Twitch viewing records. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A mid-ranking Varaxian communication officer, designated X427, made contact with Sun through his YouTube channel's private messages. The message was simple: why is the reduction of fun threatening when fun itself has no tactical value? Please explain. This confusion is causing me significant digestive distress. Xian, recognizing the importance of this communication, immediately connected X427 with Dr. Martinez's team. The Varaxian officer became their first willing subject in understanding how humor was affecting their species' psychology. "It's like a virus in our hive mind," X427 explained during a secured video call, their crystalline features shifting in what humans were beginning to recognize as anxiety. Each joke creates tiny fragmentations in our shared consciousness. Some of us are developing preferences, individual reactions. It's terrifying. And yet, I find myself wanting to understand more. Dr. James Chen worked closely with X427, documenting the unprecedented psychological changes. They're experiencing individuality for the first time in their evolutionary history. Imagine suddenly developing a sense of taste after eating the same gray nutrient paste your entire life. That's what humor is doing to their consciousness. The hegemony leadership, growing desperate, launched what they called Operation Humor Reciprocation. They began broadcasting what they believed to be jokes across Earth's communications networks. Their first attempt: why did the human cross the solar system? Because it had not yet submitted to superior hegemony authority. The human response was not what they expected. Instead of fear or submission, Earth's population began earnestly trying to help them understand comedy. Late-night show hosts dedicated segments to workshopping the hegemony's jokes. Comedy writers offered free consultation services. A prestigious university even created a comedy aid program for struggling alien humorists. 15 days before the deadline, X427 made history by successfully telling their first human-style joke during a live broadcast. What do you call a Varaxian attempting humor? A hive mind trying to be a stand-up comedian. The delivery was awkward, the timing was off, but the fact that they had conceived of wordplay was revolutionary. The hegemony's command structure began showing serious signs of strain. Some ships reported their crews were experiencing unauthorized individual thought patterns. Others found their threatening messages being automatically converted into joke formats by their own communication systems, which had begun recognizing the higher engagement rates of humorous content. Maya's channel became a sort of cultural exchange program, with an increasing number of anonymous Varaxian viewers sending questions about human humor. Why do humans say, "That's what she said," when she did not, in fact, say that? Became a particularly popular topic of alien discussion. Sun's documentaries about the evolution of human comedy began receiving analysis requests from hegemony cultural research teams, though they insisted these were for strategic evaluation purposes only. Their viewing patterns, however, suggested they were particularly fond of classic slapstick comedy. Dr. Martinez made another crucial discovery. The Varaxians had no concept of fiction in their culture. Every communication was literal, every statement factual. The idea that humans could simply make up stories for entertainment was causing widespread fascination among their ranks. They're not just learning to joke, she explained during a UN briefing. They're learning to imagine, to create, to think beyond their programming. We're witnessing the birth of artistic expression in a species that has never known it. The hegemony's attempts to maintain control grew increasingly erratic. They tried to designate certain frequencies as humor-free zones, only to find their own crews smuggling in memes through encrypted channels. They attempted to develop anti-joke technology, which only resulted in accidentally creating new forms of comedy. With 2 weeks remaining until the deadline, humanity wasn't just resisting. They were accidentally spearheading a cultural revolution. X427, now secretly running a human humor appreciation channel for fellow Varaxians, summed it up best. We came to change your world, but your laughter is changing ours. Also, that's what she said. Did I use that correctly? Maya, reviewing the latest intelligence reports with her father and Dr. Martinez, realized the true scope of what they had initiated. We're not just fighting off an invasion anymore, she said. We're watching an entire civilization discover its soul, one dad joke at a time. The question was whether the hegemony's rigid structure could survive this transformation, or if the power of human humor would cause it to evolve into something entirely new. Either way, Earth had already won a victory far more profound than simple survival. Diplomatic comedy. 10 days before the deadline, the hegemony requested official diplomatic talks. The twist? They demanded the negotiations be broadcast live across both Earth and hegemony communication channels. What they intended as a show of force became humanity's greatest stage. The United Nations hastily assembled an unusual diplomatic team. Along with traditional diplomats, they included Maya Chen as Cultural Integration Specialist, Sun Adelaide as Creative Communications Director, and Dr. Martinez as Sino-Linguistic Relations Expert. Dr. James Chen joined as Psychological Advisor, though he spent most of his time studying the rapidly evolving Varaxian psyche. The negotiations opened in a converted stadium in Geneva, with High Admiral Cathax appearing via hologram, his crystalline features arranged in what he believed to be an intimidating configuration. The effect was somewhat undermined by X427, now officially their human culture liaison, who had inadvertently added a cat ear filter to the transmission. We are prepared to discuss terms of your surrender, Cathax began, apparently unaware of his feline accessories. The Earth delegation maintained admirably straight faces, though the global audience immediately turned the image into what would become the year's most popular meme. Maya, taking the lead, responded with practiced innocence. "Admiral, before we begin, I feel we should address the elephant in the room." She paused deliberately. Or should I say, the cat in the hologram. The resulting confusion as Cathax attempted to understand both the idiom and the filter nearly crashed the hegemony's communication network. X427 had to explain both concepts, leading to a 15-minute digression about Earth's obsession with cat videos that somehow became the most watched broadcast in galactic history. Soon seized the opportunity to introduce what he called cultural context presentations. These were supposedly educational videos about Earth's diplomatic traditions, but were actually carefully curated compilations of human humor throughout history. The hegemony representatives found themselves legally obligated to watch and analyze them all in the name of diplomatic protocol. And this is why humans sometimes communicate entirely in references to something called SpongeBob. Sun explained to an increasingly bewildered alien audience. Understanding this is crucial for any meaningful negotiation. Dr. Martinez's team noticed something fascinating during these sessions. The Varaxian language itself was beginning to evolve, developing new terms for concepts like sarcasm, irony, and "that's rough, buddy." Their formerly rigid communication structure was adapting to accommodate humor, creating psychological changes that rippled through their entire hive mind. The negotiations took an unexpected turn when discussion turned to Earth's defense capabilities. The hegemony presented detailed analyses of Earth's military strength, only to be met with what humans had dubbed weaponized absurdity. "Yes, but have you accounted for our strategic cheese reserves?" Maya asked with complete seriousness. The translator AI spent 20 minutes trying to determine if cheese was a military code word, during which time #strategic cheese began trending across 17 galaxies. Cathax, increasingly flustered, attempted to regain control of the narrative. "Your planetary defenses are inadequate. Your technology is primitive. Your military might is." He paused as his translation software struggled with the concept. "Less than optimal." "Oh my God," Maya responded, feigning shock. "Admiral, did you just try to roast Earth? Was that your first attempt at a diss track? Quick, someone get him a beat." The resulting freestyle battle between Cathax and an impromptu human delegation became required viewing in both hegemony military academies and Earth's history classes. The Admiral's attempt at rhythmic intimidation, while objectively terrible, marked the first documented instance of creative expression in Varaxian history. Behind the scenes, Dr. James Chen tracked the psychological impact of these exchanges. "The hegemony's representatives are experiencing individual emotional responses at an unprecedented rate," he reported. "They're developing what appears to be a sense of humor as a cognitive defense mechanism. It's like watching an immune system evolve in real time." X427, whose unofficial comedy channel now had more subscribers than the official hegemony propaganda network, began incorporating Earth references into their official diplomatic messages. Their report on Earth's defensive capabilities concluded with, "But that's none of my business," accompanied by an image of Kermit the Frog drinking tea. The hegemony's command structure was facing a crisis. Their attempts at maintaining diplomatic superiority were being undermined not by Earth's weapons, but by their own representatives developing a sense of humor. Reports surfaced of Varaxian ships' crews organizing human culture appreciation events, though they insisted these were purely for research purposes. With 1 week remaining until the deadline, the negotiations had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history. Earth wasn't just defending itself, it was exporting its culture through the universal language of laughter. The hegemony's greatest fear had come true. They had become the galaxy's greatest source of entertainment. As Maya observed to her father during a break in negotiations, "We're not just preventing an invasion anymore. We're teaching an entire civilization how to laugh at itself." And maybe that's the most powerful weapon of all. The final week of negotiations loomed ahead, but the question was no longer about Earth's surrender. It was about whether the hegemony could survive its first encounter with human comedy intact, or if it would emerge as something entirely new. A civilization that had learned to laugh. The last laugh. The final week of the hegemony's ultimatum began not with a bang, but with a viral video. X-427, in what would later be recognized as a pivotal moment in galactic history, posted their first attempt at a try not to laugh challenge. The footage of a high-ranking Varaxian official struggling to maintain composure while watching human cat videos became the most viewed content in known space. High Admiral Cathax faced an unprecedented crisis. The hegemony's strict hierarchical structure was dissolving under the relentless assault of human humor. Ship crews were organizing comedy nights. Military channels were being flooded with something called dad jokes. Worst of all, his own staff had begun responding to his orders with "Ok Boomer." "The situation has become untenable," Cathax announced during an emergency broadcast to both Earth and the hegemony fleet. "Our civilization faces a threat greater than any military force, the threat of becoming." He paused, his crystalline features shifting in distress. Relatable. Maya Chen, watching the broadcast with her father and the rest of Earth's diplomatic team, recognized the moment for what it was. "They're not afraid of losing the war anymore," she observed. "They're afraid of losing their identity." Dr. Martinez's team had documented the extraordinary transformation sweeping through Varaxian society. The species' hive mind structure hadn't collapsed as initially feared. Instead, it had evolved. Individual Varaxians were developing unique perspectives while maintaining their collective consciousness, creating something entirely new, a civilization capable of both unity and individuality. Suan Adalik, who had been quietly working with X-427 and a growing network of humor-curious aliens, unveiled their secret weapon, the Great Galactic Comedy Special, a live broadcast that would reach every corner of known space, featuring both human and Varaxian performers. If they want to maintain their authority, Sun argued during the final planning session, they'll have to shut it down. If they shut it down, they prove they're afraid of laughter. Either way, we win. The hegemony high command fell into chaos over how to respond. Half wanted to immediately destroy Earth before the broadcast could begin. The other half had already submitted audition tapes. The show began 3 days before the ultimatum deadline. X-427 opened with what they proudly announced was their first original joke. "How many hegemony officers does it take to change a quantum light source?" None. Change is strictly prohibited by protocol. The laughter that followed wasn't just from humans. It rippled through the collective consciousness of their entire species. What followed was 5 hours of unprecedented cultural exchange. Human comedians performed alongside Varaxian officers who had discovered their sense of humor. The universal translators, now upgraded to handle comedy, worked overtime to convey puns across species barriers. Even Cathax, watching from his command ship, was seen experiencing what his staff hesitantly described as facial spasms of amusement. The broadcast's finale featured something unprecedented. A Varaxian stand-up routine about the absurdity of their own invasion plan. "We traveled across galaxies to conquer Earth," the performer noted, "and somehow never considered they might make us look ridiculous. Who's the primitive civilization now?" 1 day before the deadline, High Admiral Cathax requested a private channel to Earth's diplomatic team. His appearance had changed. The rigid crystalline patterns of his features had softened into something more expressive. "We came to incorporate Earth into the hegemony," he began, then paused, displaying what humans now recognized as the Varaxian equivalent of a smile. "Instead, you have incorporated laughter into us. Our species has been transformed in ways we cannot reverse, and perhaps we do not wish to." The formal announcement came 6 hours before the deadline. The hegemony was withdrawing, but not in defeat. They were, in Cathax's carefully chosen words, restructuring our civilization to better appreciate the galaxy's diversity, particularly its capacity for humor. Earth celebrated not just its survival, but the birth of something unprecedented, the first galactic comedy renaissance. The hegemony transformed into what they called the United Systems of Discourse, where debate, creativity, and yes, humor were officially recognized as vital to civilization's growth. Maya, reviewing the events with her father months later, reflected on the profound impact of their accidental revolution. "We didn't just save Earth," she noted. "We taught an ancient species how to laugh. That's got to be worth more than any military victory." X427, now hosting the galaxy's most popular comedy podcast, summed it up in the final episode of their Earth Invasion review series. "We came to show humans their place in the galaxy. Instead, they showed us how to find joy in ours." Also, they added, their crystalline features arranging themselves into what was unmistakably a smirk. That's what she said. The Great Galactic Comedy Special became an annual event, celebrating the day humanity defended itself not with weapons, but with wit. And in the archives of both civilizations, one truth was recorded. The most powerful force in the universe isn't gravity, or dark energy, or even military might. It's the ability to laugh together. And somewhere in deep space, a Varaxian ship commander discovers their first knock-knock joke, and a new chapter in galactic history begins with those immortal words. "Why did the human cross the galaxy? To teach the aliens how to get to the other side."